Hello, everybody. Welcome. I realized that said the old show name, The Unfiltered Tea. Um, but we're new. We're new. We've moved. If you are finding me over on the Unfiltered Tea channel, that we are packing up and we're moving over here to the Aurora H. White. Um, New show name is going to be Bark a Lot because that's what I do. So, and that's what we're going to do together. So welcome while you're coming on in. Let me know where you're coming in from, what you're sipping on this evening. This is also going to be a reminder to take big deep breaths. We are here. We got you. That's we just if you're like me, you need that reminder every so often to just relax your shoulders, unclench your jaw, take a deep breath. We're all here together. Um, and I will fix that little lead in, but I'm a one woman show, baby. So there's a limit to how much I feel like arguing with graphic design. So I myself am sipping on a nice dark stout because that's my evening. And y'all missed it. She hopped off just before we went live, but the cat was sitting on the back of my chair. So I have full supervision here. Um, welcome. Um, let's see. I had a thought. Oh, right. Hi. It's been one of those days. So, um, yes, we've moved all of that, but if you're new here, welcome. I am Aurora H. White, and I have been doing a show here on YouTube for the last 3 years. And we have decided to move over, and I'm making some changes. And the new show is now called Bark a Lot. I know I said that already, but I'm catching my own self up. Words too fast for brain. Hi, welcome. So here we are. We're doing the reboot and the rebrand for a while. If you're an OG, then you would remember that me and well, that was terrible. Mandy and I would get together and chat about some things. Every now and then Mandy does pop in and chat with us still. We always look forward to those times. For the most part though, it's me and us and you in the chat, and we gather together on Saturday evenings, at least for now, because that's the day I can do it because I do have a regular day job. Um, and yeah, how did I get here? Did Were you asking? I don't know, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So after doing this for a few years and everything, I finally ended up settling on politics, pop culture, and court because I am a law nerd, and I do mean a law nerd. I hang out in the EDB chats a lot. I listen to court all day over there, and I watch a bunch of other lawyers on YouTube, and can't remember what it was specifically where I was like, I have thoughts I can add to this conversation. So I decided to hop in, and I've been here for a while and I do that. And lately I've been seeing in these chats that I hang out in the need that I have to have the same civil discourse, start with kindness, lead with kindness, have compassion, but not just be in my own little bubble all of the time. So I thought, well, I may as well just create the community that I'm looking for. So welcome. That's this. That's what we're doing. Um, so yeah, I invite everybody to come along, bark a lot with me. And for now, are y'all ready? Are y'all ready for the new intro? let me go ahead. If you were here last week, some of you caught a little sneak peek of it. But I zhuzhed it just a little bit. So let me go ahead, run the new intro, and then we will dive into our evening. Nope, my brain just interrupted itself. I'm gonna pause. I'm just gonna roll the intro.
Welcome to Bark a Lot with the Aurora H. White. I'm a legal biller by trade, opinionated law and politics nerd by default. I'm here to break down the political, pop culture, and court headlines that we're all talking about. We value facts, thoughtful discussion, and salty language, so whether you're a fellow law nerd, a political junkie, or just looking for a little hope in today's crazy world, you're in the right place. Tap that subscribe button, pull up your soapbox, and let's go.
Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. Let us go. So I'm going to pull up my notes because we're going to start off tonight with a story. Because if you're paying attention to the world and you've been following me on any of the socials, I have been hyper focused on all of the things happening in Minnesota, in part because of where I live. And the next spots on their list are Portland and Lewiston, Maine. And I work in one of those places and I live in the other. So it's getting real close. But in doing all of this and seeing things online, I'm seeing a lot of that shut down, right? Where conversations can't really happen and people are talking over each other. And I keep coming back to a time when I was in children's theater. And I'm actually going to pull up my other notes because StreamYard is fine, but I need them a little better organized than StreamYard will let me do that. Sorry. So way back in the day, I was doing children's theater. And when I say way back, I mean this was me and a bunch of teenagers, and we were getting ready to do this show called Letters to an Alien. And the basic premise of Letters to an Alien was it's a kid gets sent to live with their grandparent for a summer. Mind you, this was back in the mid 90s, so ages, just for ages. So this teenager gets sent to live with their grandparent for a summer, and they do not get along at all. And all the while, somewhere in the background, aliens are watching, and it's pretty much this children's theater play. Aliens are trying to understand the human experience, and they are getting that through this kid and this grandparent. Well, as the show goes along, it comes out that this grandparent is a survivor of the Holocaust. And through flashback scenes and whatnot, the alien characters and the young teen learns about what happened in the Holocaust and what the grandparent went through and the atrocities of war and all of that. Well, because of what this show was, some of us obviously had to play the bad guys. I'm trying very hard to be circumspect with my language because I really want to appease the YouTube gods tonight. But so some of us had to play the bad guys. And how do you get kids to play these parts and teach them about history and human nature all at the same time? Well, if you are the geniuses of the theater directors that were running this program, you put the kids through an improv exercise that is also one hell of a lesson in psychology. So, those of us who were playing the bad guys get taken out of the room. So, and there's about half of the group still left in the theater, and half of us leave the theater. The group of us that left the theater got told that the people inside the theater had information that we wanted, that they had stolen money, that they were hiding important things from us. And we, for the good of everything, had to find out what they were hiding, no matter how bad it was, no matter what we needed to do. And if they said they didn't know what we were talking about, they were lying. And this was the improv instruction for us. The ones left inside, I do not know what they were told. I think they were just told to tell the truth. And so we get all of this information, cue the raid, right? Where our bad guy group has to run in. Now, mind you, we know who we're playing in this scenario. We understand the overlying, we're the big bad guys, they are the victims. Like, somewhere in our head, we actually do know that and we recognize that. But it's still an improv exercise. So we come rushing into the theater and we start asking them questions and they don't know what we're talking about. And then we got angry. And I mean, all of us viscerally angry. The line, and they let us go pretty much until that line where violence was a very real possibility in that moment. And this is an improv exercise, and we knew it was an exercise. We knew that it was fake. But we got to that point with that basic information, even knowing that. And they let us go until in my notes, I wrote it that our primal human mind went dark. It was real easy to click into violence in that moment and not feel remorse about it because of what we had been told, that they were intentionally hiding stuff from us. We effectively dehumanized our good friends in a heartbeat. So I do want to take a moment and say that everybody involved in this exercise is, to the best of my knowledge, kind, wonderful human beings. Most of us are still in touch, at least on Facebook. We all pretty much align with our general political views, and for sure that humans are humans and everybody deserves respect. So that's to say that we came out of this maybe better people than we would have without going through the exercise. I don't know. I'll never know the answer to that question. I will give it to the directors that when we hit that critical moment, when we could have just started beating each other up, the teachers called a halt to the entire exercise. And we all broke down. I think there were a lot of tears, and we deconstructed everything that had just happened and listened to what it was like on both sides, and really were able to share the experience in that way. did end up flipping it around, but it wasn't the same the second time. It is definitely an exercise you only do once. Because even when you do it the second time, it doesn't carry the same heaviness. And people are just, you hold back a bit more on the second round. So, why am I telling this story now? ICE. I'm seeing this play out with ICE in exactly the same kind of way. And it some of them like the cruelty. Yeah, some of them are evil. Some of them like causing the chaos. That's for sure. But I also think that there are just an awful lot of them that are more like that first group of us that got taken outside the theater. They're being told lies. They are being told that their problems will be solved if they can cause this violence against others and that kind of thing, right? Like, and a lot of them have just been raised on things like Fox News and OAN and those and Alex Jones and Ben Shapiro and news that is not news. It is not fact-based. Most of my generation, doesn't matter which side you're on, because the fairness doctrine was canceled a while back, it's all opinion, not news. And so I don't say that to excuse them, but I do say that in a way to say that when we can hold a mirror up to them, I can't help it. I believe that deep down, most of us can come back from that place. If, but it's, how to put this? We've never really felt comfy holding a mirror up to ourselves as a nation. In part because a lot of the people in power have my complexion, and we get real uncomfortable with things like colonizer and that sort of thing, even though, yeah, a lot of our ancestors, we all want to think of our ancestors as just being the good guys, right? And the fact of the matter is, the math just doesn't math on that sometimes. And what can we do about it? Well, we can be better than they were. We can open our minds and our hearts in ways that they couldn't or wouldn't, right? So I also do think that there are probably some folks that have joined up that are maybe second guessing themselves. I don't know. What I do know is that we need to be prepared to give some grace as they wake up. And I am not going to, I also think they need to be held accountable for all of the crimes that they are committing. And when we look at the spark that ticked a lot of this off with the couple of murders that happened last week, or one was a couple weeks ago and then one was last week, we need to hold them accountable for the atrocities that they are committing. But we also need to make sure that as we're doing that, we give room for them to see the error of their ways. So yeah, that was my story. That's how I am viewing this. I'm gonna hope that we can start having conversations. I would like the fairness doctrine and verifiable facts to become cool again. That would be great. But in the meantime, so that was story time. And I think we all need a swoop. We all need a swoop. If you have pets, sorry, I'm hunting for my thing. If you have pets, if the sound is on, if you have a cat in your lap, hit mute. Just bring the volume all the way down. You can bring it back up when the swoop is done playing, because there is a lovely little bark in the swoop that I have right now. I know it's been fixed. I don't have it yet because I didn't do that before the show tonight. But so anyway, mute me, and then when the doggy is done running across the stream, you can bring the volume back up again. Okay. And now we need to now we need to wiggle. We need to wiggle for a minute. We gotta take a deep breath. We gotta be like Taylor Swift or a dog and shake it off. Because I have more to cover, guys. I have more to cover. So we are heading into a point. I need to move my notes so that you do not see me just looking off into the distance the whole time. But yeah, so if you are in an area where the icy weather, and by ice I mean the very young organization that never should have been formed in the first place, is coming my way, coming your way. One of the things we are going to go over tonight is know your rights. Anybody who knows me gets annoyed with how often I say this, but it's true. You have a right to an attorney. You have a right to an attorney. Full stop. Don't care. Are you a human? Are you within the borders of this nation? Great. You have a right to an attorney. So, should folks knock on your door, you are going to, they can't come in. They cannot come in unless they have a judicial warrant. What does a judicial warrant look like? Let me see if I can pull that up for you, because I have it here. So we're going to take a quick look at the judicial warrant if I can get it to pull up. Sure. Okay. Everything is new on my screen here. Don't mind me. That's the one. There we go. Trying to smallin me and embiggen it. There we go. Let me see if I can. There we go. So this is what they should have if they are going to enter your house. You need to have it, you need to be seeing that it's a district court. You need to be seeing that it is signed by a judge. And my guess is you can probably Google if that is an actual judge in your area, in this district. And you will see these different things. This is different than what they often have, which is something like this. That means nothing. that means effectively nothing in courts. From what I understand from every lawyer I have seen, it's this. So neither of these mean they can come into the House. And we are going to talk a little bit too about the amendments, because the key aspect of so much of this is probable cause. In order to get a warrant signed by a judge, probable cause is required. What's probable cause? Well, probable cause is, remember the Karen Read trial? Probable cause would be, hey, you have somebody in your lawn. We need to be able to come see if anything happened in the house. That could be reasonable probable cause. I want to bust in your house because Stephen Miller told me that you were hiding something on me. That's not probable cause. And in order to get a judicial warrant, as I understand it, I would not quote me on this, whoever is issuing a warrant does need to reach out to a judge and say, I want the warrant for this reason. And a lot of times on those warrants, you will see the things that they are looking for. Now, if they have a warrant, they are allowed to come into the house. They are allowed to, do kind of whatever, and they do not have to pay for it. So sorry about that. That has been adjudicated. That sucks. But that's what it is. And they can lie to you as well. If you think for 1 second that any law enforcement officer is not allowed to lie to you, no, they absolutely are. And they do, which is why you request an attorney. If you are ever in this situation, request an attorney. You can just be like, I would like my attorney to be here. And they kind of have to stop in their tracks. I realize what they're supposed to do and what they actually do can be very, very different things. But you do have the right to an attorney, and it does not matter if you are here or I don't care if you were born here. I don't care if you're 7 generations deep. I don't care if you got off the boat yesterday. You have a right to an attorney. And I don't know if any of you follow the dad chats on Instagram or TikTok or any of those, but I am going to pull up. He says this much better than me. So I am going to pull up. This video came across my feed the other day, and it is brilliant, and I want to share it with you. So I'm going to pull this up. This is the dad chats. No relation that I know of. That would be fun, but no relation that I know of. But I'm going to pull up this one because it's brilliant. Go over to his page, give it a like over there. Please, because this is absolutely brilliant information. It helps if we have sound. That helps. Sound would help. Sound would definitely help. Nope, not that. Not that. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Hi, guys. Sorry about that. I am fighting with the computer at the moment. Shocker. Shocker. Yes. No? Yes. Let's see if that did it. Let me see. Let me see if that did it. Nope. Okay. Well, then I'm going to say that plan maybe did not work the way I wanted it to. Um, well then, nope. Oh my God. Hey guys, you ever have one of those moments where you spend 10 minutes looking for your glasses and they're on your head? Yeah, this was absolutely the digital equivalent of that. Let me try this. Can I? Nope.
First is from my 1L year at law school. I remember having a really rough week, sitting in common law class. A question which had pertained to some readings that we were supposed to do 2 days prior. I did not read those. The hypothetical question revolved around whether a person had the ability to access an attorney, the right to counsel. But the nature of any question in law school is that it's never really super straightforward. And I started running through my head what I did remember about the cases when we were assigned them. I remember that the opinion in one of the cases was written by Antonin Scalia, one of, if not the most strict fundamentalist literal definition of what's in the Constitution, justices in the Supreme Court's history. What I knew about Scalia and how he probably would have interpreted the case in front of him. Also, what I knew from being someone who consumed the news a lot didn't seem to line up. Me thinking I was, finding a clever way to get out of the question, I looked at my professor and I was like, well, I guess it depends whether non-citizens have the same rights in the Constitution as citizens. My professor did this, and he pauses and he backs up and he looks around at the whole room. He says, one of the most important things that you have to learn as you become an attorney, that when you don't know something or you clearly did not read something, don't pretend like you did. For instance, in that case that I was so certain I knew what it said, Leah had actually very clearly outlined that non-citizens have a constitutional guarantee to due process and access to an attorney, even going so far as to say it is well-established law. Fifth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment, and decades of Supreme Court jurisprudence. Here's the second story. As of yesterday, the Whipple Federal Building here in Minnesota, which has become ground zero for detentions, has stopped allowing attorneys into the building in order to meet with clients who are non-citizens. As recently as Wednesday, they were still letting us in. Yesterday, that changed. They started telling us that they did not have the capacity to let us in. But for our clients who are citizens, they did. I want to be very clear here. I'm not referring to access to counsel as the government has to pay for your attorney. I am talking about attorneys who have been hired, who have been retained by a family, showing up and demanding to meet with our clients, being told specifically by people who swore to the almost exact same oath that I did. I might add that Justice Scalia did, but we are not allowed to. Access to counsel is probably the most important constitutional right there is, because all constitutional rights are simply theoretical until and unless you can actually assert them, which you cannot do without knowledgeable counsel. Without counsel, the Constitution is basically just a whole bunch of concepts. So I want to be clear because I know how the comment sections tend to go on these things. This really is not a question that is up for debate or up for argument or up for political opinion. It is basic constitutional law established and affirmed by some of the most liberal and some of the most conservative justices ever. It's that right becomes subjective and disappears for some, disappears for everyone. And once we lose that, we risk losing everything else. You get sworn into state and federal court.
Yep. That. He says it better than I could possibly, although we need the goat for they're not letting. I've also heard rumors that for some folks in these detention centers, they are requiring that the door be open while people meet with their attorneys. Guess what's not allowed? That. The attorney-client privilege goes. Attorney-client privilege is a thing that lasts even if you are the client and you die. The attorney still has to uphold attorney-client privilege unless you had waived that before you shuffled off the mortal coil. It's a very, very protected right, or it has been. Anyway, and we are going to jump over to looking at some of these amendments. I'm going to, do I have a swoop? I don't know. I'm going to see if I have a swoop. And then we are going to take a look at we're going to take a look at the amendments. And in the description of this live stream, I have put a whole bunch of information because, and you know what I did? I lost, because I got this, yes, we're just in the middle of solar flares as well. Oh, you know what? My brain just got real confused. I interrupted myself. It was a whole thing. In the description of this live stream, I have put a whole bunch of links to different websites, and these are things that have come from people that I trust, and they have excellent information on them. Also, over on my threads, I did post them there too, because we all need this information. I have also seen the Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and others all have hotlines for ice sightings. Please only call if you have confirmed a sighting. And the reason that I say that is because, not surprisingly, people who do not have the best intentions are tying up the line as much as they can. So, oh, I don't know. Are you're in the wrong version of this live stream? I don't know. I don't know what that. Are you in the wrong timeline? I fell into the wrong timeline. I don't know. It's on 2 channels. If you're over on the Unfiltered Tea, come join me on the Aurora H. White. And the link should be in that description there too. But over on the Aurora H. White, you should have all of these links. I will double check to make sure that they are there. But let's go over some of these. Oh, this is going to be tricky, so I just ask you to bear with me because, solar flares. Okay. So first we have no one is above the law. This is a nonpartisan coalition made up of more than 150 organizations, grassroots organizers, think tanks, and I am going to pause, and I am going to say that this is also a good time. This conversation came up on one of the YouTube shows, I think, that I watched the other day. Legality and morality are not necessarily the same thing. We can take the basic morality, like what happened to Renee Good. There can be some debate over whether or not that was legal. I don't know how many juries would put that through, but it could be adjudicated in a court of law, and it would be up to the prosecution to prove that that is in fact what happened. But we can also make laws better. So we just need to keep that in mind. Anyway, so this is, it helps helps if you can see what I'm talking about. So, the Not Above the Law Coalition mobilizes millions of Americans from all walks of life, political stripes, because at the end of the day, it is protecting our rights and protecting our legal rights is not and should not be a political thing. If one side loses the rights, everybody loses their rights. Really, it's one of those, it's a domino. If we can't sit here and pick and choose who gets rights and who doesn't. Everybody gets them or nobody gets them. That's kind of how it works. So we have that. Then we have, no, there's got to be an easier way to do this. All right. So then we have the American Civil Liberties Union. I suppose I didn't really need to bring them up, but we do have the American Civil Liberties Union. Go to your local chapter. I know some of us are still a little on edge from a few years ago and some things, but they do ultimately do the right thing. They're on the ground. They're working to protect everybody's rights. And as we've all known, they don't give a flying flap doodle who they're representing as long as they are representing for the cases that ultimately benefit everybody as far as rights go. So go check them out. All of these places, at least the ACLU is definitely one. They have local chapters. I apologize. My brain keeps buffering in real time because it's been a lot. So, next up we have, nope, not that one. This one is going to be the immigrant. Where did it go? There it is. There it is. I should make my life a little easier. So next up, we have the Immigrant Legal Advocacy Project. And this is more Maine specific. The thing is that if this is where I would start, the ACLU is another place where I would start. If you think that you may be in the danger zone at any point, reaching out to a lawyer ahead of time is not a bad idea. At least knowing the office that you would call should anything go sideways. It's just a good practice to have. I know how a lot of people feel about attorneys. I work for them. It's really not a stereotype that in my professional career I've seen happen a lot. I know it exists. Trust me, I have encountered them in the wild, but I've encountered more caring lawyers throughout my life than I have encountered the supposed stereotype of lawyers. So I'm not saying they don't exist, but I am saying that one of my catchphrases is that at some point in life, you need one of two professionals, a doctor or an attorney. So knowing who you're going to call for those things, or at least a general office, because attorneys are remarkably specialized. So for anything involving immigration or anything that might be perceived as an immigration issue, because we know that sometimes they just operate on the color of skin and not, any logical reasoning whatsoever. So in that case, just make sure that you know your rights and make sure that somebody can contact an attorney for you. And then it becomes a mission to just repeat the phrase, I want an attorney. until an attorney is there to speak for you. So yeah, it's that, and then basically you can forget everything except I would like an attorney. So, and there are, I mean, and then there is the Maine Solidarity Fund. That is also very helpful. Oh, thank you. I will need to fix that. So I apologize. Dad has just alerted me that I didn't put the link on the new channel. I will fix that. I will fix that when I get done here. I could try and fix it now. But I think we'll just swoop, and I'm going to embiggen myself, and then we will turn around and go back to that. I will fix it, chat. I will fix it. I promise. But then guys, we're going to have a little constitutional law. We're going to look at some amendments. We're going to go through them, and we're going to refresh our memories, and we're going to make our middle and high school history teachers so proud. So, okay. And what swoop? What swoop do I use? Do I go? I'm deciding. Doggy swoop. Mute if you have cats in your lap. I will put the reverb swoop in at some point. So, okay, so all of the links that you need for keeping yourself safe, those are all going to be in the description of the video below. And what we're going to do now is we are going to brush up on our Constitution. And I'm going to mess with, yeah, that's slightly better. Not ideal. That is tiny. I'm going to see if I can embiggen this at all. Can I embiggen? No, maybe. Ugh. There are some things that Mac just does not do as easily. Ah, there we are. There we are. Now we can embiggen. Now we can embiggen. Okay. What's the first thing we are going to look at? Obviously, we're going to look at the First Amendment first, because boy, has that been in the discourse online lately. And I feel like there's a lot of people that have not read it recently. And we all like to sort of quote it, but we're gonna break this down just a little bit. If you are an attorney and you happen to be watching me, especially if you're a constitutional law attorney, because I am not a lawyer, absolutely not a lawyer, this is the best that I understand it as. Please feel free to correct me. So far, I've paid attention to a whole lot of folks, and I seem to be accurate on that. But anyway, if I get a nuance wrong, let me know. The very first amendment to our United States Constitution says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. Looking at you, administration. Or the right of the people to peaceably, let me try that again. The right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Translation. First of all, Congress is the one that makes the laws around our rights. The executive branch doesn't get a say. That was by design. Second of all, as far as the establishment of religion or prohibiting free exercise thereof, you know what that also means? It means you can't force your religion onto others. That's not a part of that. That has been adjudicated. Also, abridging freedom of speech. This comes up a lot with defamation, particularly with this regime, which likes to yell defamation anytime somebody says something that they don't like. Defamation is an incredibly high bar to reach. And for the most part, if you are a public figure, like, for example, the president, pretty much anything short of threatening violence, you can say. There are definitely some guardrails, but things like the heckling incident, absolutely protected as free speech. Any of these protests, protected as free speech. These protests are not only free speech, but they are also the right to peaceably assemble. That's the part that gets tricky online these days, is the claim that they are not peaceful. Well, what is self-defense and what is instigation? That is a discussion to be had. I'm not saying everybody is perfect, but also if you've been punched in the face 3 times and you block your hands, you throw your hands up to block the punch, and they hurt their hand, did you cause violence? Probably not. So anyway, everything that we are seeing is in fact legal. What I have questions for an attorney on are the use of things like flashbangs and tear gas, for example, with the family that was literally just trying to go home and the kids were involved. I feel like that crosses a line, but I also think that that is going to be adjudicated in court down the road once we've managed to impeach everybody and we get the trials all set up. Next up is the Second Amendment. Am I going to go through all of these? No, but the Second Amendment is something that has been well adjudicated, and this is a point in time where I think, because it has been so well adjudicated that the right to bear arms is as fundamental as the right to free speech, if you are well trained, great. I firmly believe in lots of training for firearms. I also think that there are those who are more a part of this MAGA cult, for lack of a better term, that forget that I know an awful lot of liberals who also like their firearms. So I definitely believe in them being used defensively, but I am not going to sit here and say we need to do anything with the Second Amendment. That can be a debate for a different time, but now is absolutely not the time to debate that one. So now we're going to jump down to the important amendments when it comes to claims this regime is making and the realities of what are in the Constitution. Starting with the Fourth Amendment. So let's look at the Fourth Amendment here. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause. That's a very important line. Pardon me. I supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Now, there are some extenuating circumstances that can be used in courts of law. Reasonable suspicion that maybe somebody is in need of life-saving help and you need to get into the house, that kind of thing. But I will say that for these idiots that just plow into the house, how to put this? If a police officer, just leaving the ice of it all out of this, if a police officer were to say just barge into your house and say, aha, you've got that box of Kleenex I was looking for. Ridiculous hypothetical, but I'm going with the ridiculous tonight. And you guys get to a court of law, your lawyer can be like, you didn't have a warrant. Guess what evidence doesn't come in? This is a very, 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 very important amendment, and I think we often skip over it. And I think that we have, how to put this? I think we skip over the Fourth Amendment more than we should, and I think we need to remind ourselves that it does exist because, reminder, any law enforcement officer can and will lie to you. They are under zero obligation at any point in time to tell you the truth. They are, however, required to show you the warrant if they have one, signed by a judge. So, reminder of the Fourth Amendment. Also, we need to look at the Fifth Amendment because we quote the Fifth Amendment a lot, but we don't often look at its actual wording. So let us break down the Fifth Amendment, and then I think we are going to skip ahead to the 14th Amendment, which is one of the other super important amendments in dealing with everything that we are seeing these days. So, Amendment 5, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service of war, in time of war or public danger. I'm going to pause here because when in actual service in time of war or public danger, this is specifically related to the military, but also I have my suspicions that our regime is maybe misreading that with what they are trying to do, because they're definitely trying to incite something that they feel will give them power over everything so that we can just scrap all of this, right? That's their mission. That's what we keep trying to stop. Okay. Nor shall any person, I'm back to war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. I'm going to go back to that double jeopardy bit. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. What does that mean? Well, that means that when somebody is indicted for a crime, they are still assumed to be innocent until proven guilty, right? It is up to the prosecution to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. So you have somebody who walks into court as a defendant. They go into this, and we will use the Karen Read as an case as an example. We can also go with an even more famous case, O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson is a perfect example of the double jeopardy thing, right? Once a jury gets impaneled and makes a decision, in the case of O.J., to acquit him, when he came out with that book of What If I Did It, we can't then try him for the crime because a jury of his peers has already acquitted him of that crime. Now, the other crimes that he was charged with and ultimately convicted of, those could still go through if they were new cases and that kind of thing. So that is basically what that means. And it starts from a point in time where a jury is impaneled and sworn in. Prior to that, jeopardy doesn't attach, which can make it a little confusing. I highly recommend you watch literally any of the attorneys that I have ever mentioned on this channel explain it probably better than I ever did or could. Next up, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. The government can't take your shit until it has gone through the long, slow, and arduous court process stating that it has a very good reason to do so. Also very important with where we are at right now. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Meaning, another wild hypothetical, if somebody, well, I'm going to go back to Karen Read because the last I knew, her car was still in the possession of the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. So after all of this, they have to give it back to her or they have to pay her for it. There may be updates on that I have missed, but anyway, that. So that is the amendment. That is the Fifth Amendment. Most of us only remember that we do not have to testify against ourselves, right? But it's a lot. There is much, much more to the Fifth Amendment. And the Sixth Amendment is also the right to a speedy and public trial. That is key. And I think some of the folks have forgotten that. Some of the folks in the regime have forgotten that. But anyway, it is public trial. If we need to, we can go back to the Sixth Amendment. I feel like I need a full-on refresher course in the Constitution. But what we're going to do now, because this is the next big important piece, is now we have a longer amendment. The 14th Amendment is incredibly long. History nerds, please correct me if my memory is faulty. My understanding is that Ulysses S. Grant wanted to ensure that any of the freed slaves would be as protected as he could make them by assisting sort of behind the scenes in the crafting of the 14th Amendment, which is one of the reasons why it's very long and very, very specific. So we're going to break it down. Take a breath, do a little stretch. This is a long one. We're going to break this down. Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So I'm going to go through this real slowly. All persons born or naturalized in the United States. Citizens. They are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person, different from citizen. So citizens instantly get all of the rights of their particular jurisdiction and of the citizenship rights of the United States, right? Any person, back up, nor shall any state deprive any person meaning anybody, and I do mean anybody, of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Person is key. If you've watched me for a while, you know that should means you should, and shall in a legal document means you do the thing. Person, means human being, means anybody, not citizens only, not only some people. Person means person, and everyone gets due process, up to and including any of these people currently committing crimes in the name of the federal government, including, I don't know, pick your administration character of the day. Any person has a right to due process. Section 2. Wow, maybe I will need to circle back to this later. We're going to get through it. We are going to get through it, guys. While I'm paused here for a minute, if you haven't already, definitely subscribe over on the Aurora H. White channel, and definitely hit a like anywhere. Okay. Deep breath. Section 2. Representatives shall be apportioned among the several states to their respective numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state, excluding Indians not taxed. We have adjusted some of those things. That's a whole different conversation. We will not go down the rabbit hole today. But when the right to vote at any election for the choice of electors for president and vice president of the United States, representatives in Congress, the executive and judicial officers of a state, or the members of the legislature thereof, is denied to any of the male inhabitants of such state being 21 years of age. That's an asterisk on there. And citizens of the United States, or in any way abridged except for participation in rebellion or other crime, the basis of representation therein shall be reduced in the proportion which the number of such male citizens shall bear to the whole number of male citizens 21 years of age in each state. I'm going to need an attorney to help me break that one down. Or the ghost of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I will say that this was written before women got the right to vote, so we're now included in this, but it's the math of how representatives are designed. Basically, and I might be wrong on this, but if any attorney or constitutional law scholar is watching, please let me know if I am right, or correct me where I don't understand it. But I really kind of want to know if I'm right, that this is, this equates to getting rid of that whole 3/5 rule, that your people are whole people and get to be represented. No person, Section 3, we're moving on to Section 3. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president, or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or any state, who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each House, remove such disability. I still maintain that according to Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, that most of the current regime should not, by Section 3, hold the offices they hold. That's my own personal opinion. We could debate that if we wanted to. I would be curious to hear arguments, honestly, for or against that, because I'm sure it has been discussed, if not yet adjudicated. But that is a very important thing, and I think we're going to see Section 3 quoted a lot in the next 20 years. Section 4, the validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pensions, bounties, for services in suppressing insurrection or rebellion, shall not be questioned. This section is also going to be quoted an awful lot, I'm guessing, in courts of law over the next 20 years. But neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States, or any claim for the loss or emancipation of any slave, but all such debts, obligations, and claims shall be held illegal and void. I know we didn't live up to that the way that we should have, and the way several wanted to, but there. And Section 5, the Congress shall have the power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. The Congress, not the President. The Congress, not the Supreme Court, the Congress. So, that is the 14th Amendment. This is very important because, again, due process of law. I can't stress this enough. Everybody has a right to an attorney. Everybody. It is one of the core fundamentals of this document that we are looking at. Also, I disappeared myself. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. Okay. I know that was a lot because there's a lot of fancy language and older language in all of this. And as I said, I've never been to law school. I'm just a nerd that's always found this fascinating. And for a very long time, I've walked around with the Constitution in my pocket. Most of this has already been through the Supreme Court multiple times. And as that wonderful creator pointed out, these are fundamental to everything that we are seeing right now. So I guess what I would say is, well, first let me do a swoop, and then we're going to wrap up for the evening. Thank you for going on this ride with me. Squirrel swoop. I think it's really good that we remind ourselves of our actual rights. And I think it's really good to, Okay. Sorry. I got distracted by the chat. Um it, I need to do some back behind the scenes things. The moves are never smooth, right? Even digital moves have some hiccups. That's okay. We'll find it. Um so anyway, in these times, I think it's really good that we all brush up on our rights. Go find your lawyer friends. Make sure that you have places that you can call so that you can have access to attorneys as needed. I definitely recommend that. Um, and ultimately, we got to stick together. We need to stick together. And yes, I've dealt with it in my life where you get somebody, particularly somebody in various levels of law enforcement, where they don't actually know a lot of the laws that they are enforcing. A shocking number of people I have encountered in that field. I know there are plenty that I have not met, but a shocking number of people have not. Um, nope. I apologize. My brain totally buffered. Has it been a lot for you this week? It's been a lot for me this week. It has been a lot. That's why we're here. We're building community. We're sticking together. We're having the conversations. We're having civil discourse. That's what we're doing here. And apparently brushing up on our constitutional law because that's right. Because a lot of law enforcement officers don't actually know the law that they're enforcing. And I've encountered several. I've encountered several who are good and they understand and they're the good guys too. But I have also encountered several that just get, well, super duper cranky when you actually know your rights. So what I'm going to say is that make sure that you know your rights. Make sure you document everything that you can document should you end up in a not great situation. And get an attorney to get that file started as soon as possible. Also, engage your community. That is the thing that is going to keep us all safe. Know your neighbors, know your community, know the people near you, be in contact with everybody because we have to look out for each other. That's where we're at. If you have, before I take off for the evening, ladies and gentlemen, again, remember do the YouTube things, hit the like, hit the subscribe, definitely on the Aurora H. White channel. Go find me on the socials. That's where I post most often. That's where you get the most up-to-date information. And please, 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 if you've got something that you want me to dive into, video we want to go over, because good Lord, I need some jokes soon. Maybe we'll just take next week and laugh at Carolyn Levitt or something. I don't know. Or the Epstein files. I think Michael Cohen is now freaking out and saying I lied about everything except I don't even know. I can't. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. We are not 2 weeks into January yet, and it feels like it has been 2 years long. So take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Make sure you cuddle your pets. And with all of that, I'm going to stop talking because I just keep buffering in real time. I am going to say good night. Good night, my friends. As always, this is the new show. So anyway, I wish you the same things every time. And I'm going to say, be well, do good, and remember to bark a lot. I'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Bark a Lot. Follow me on Threads and Insta at the Aurora H. White. That's where I post most frequently between shows. Hit that like button, connect with us, and remember to bark a lot. We will see you next time.